How many of you had a favorite band in high school or college? Band that you just wanted to hear everything it ever recorded because they were absolutely amazing in your view. I had such a band when I was in college a few years back. Bill Mallonee and the Vigilantes of Love. In my opinion, best living songwriter in the 90s. Bill Mallonee. Well, I found a way when I was in college to get access to all of these unreleased songs that Bill had written. He writes still to this day 50 to 60 songs a year and only has a recording budget to record maybe a dozen or so of those. So, there were a lot of songs performed at concerts that never made it into the studio. And the beauty was this was the mid and late 90s when that nerd device known as the mini disc player that everyone thought was going to be huge but really never took off was just released. So people would actually go into these concerts and record them because Bill and the Vigilantes were just like the Grateful Dead in the 60s and 70s. They said, you want to record our show? We are totally fine with that. So from 2005 until about 2008, I went on Yahoo groups and found people that had recorded these shows or had these shows with some of these unreleased songs on them as they would post the track list. And the Vigilantes of Love website had a list of all the unreleased songs that were released and the year. I was able to go in and I was able to request these shows from people. And it's pretty cool how we worked. I learned a new phrase, B.N.P, which stood for blanks and postage. What you would do is you would take a blank CD-R or two, depending on how many were required to have that show. You would put it in a case. You would take an envelope, self-addressed with postage. You would slide it in there. And then you would take another envelope, write that person's address, mail the envelope addressed to you with the discs in it inside of that envelope. And then that person would take your discs, record the show to it, drop this back in the mailbox on your tab, postage-wise, and send it back to you. I did this many times. I also found that once I had acquired some shows, there were some shows other people didn't have, and I would then trade those shows for other shows that I didn't have. I acquired probably a good 10 or 15 concerts this way. And then the summer of '08 arrived, and I took every unreleased song that I had, and I put them in the playlist, 4 discs of stuff from 1989 to 2005, from both Bill's pre-Vigilantes of Love days, Vigilantes of Love days, and then his solo career. And I burned them to a disc. And I had them on my computer to this day. I just threw them, in fact, on my iPod this week and have been listening to all these songs again in my car and at home and been enjoying them immensely. There was another really cool thing in the mid-2000s as I started this project called Bill Tunes. It was a monthly subscription service where you could go in and a fan had found access to the outtakes from the Vigilantes albums. There were some other songs there, and he would allow you to download them for $10 a month. I acquired some songs this way as well. It's pretty cool. I'm telling you, it was a project I'll never forget. And I burned them, 4 discs, and then re-imported them into my computer. And it's been a fun journey listening to some of these songs, realizing that we probably had one of the most incredibly songwriting minds of the 90s through today. And so thankful that people actually immortalized them by recording it. So there you go, friends. My story for the day. How I learned what blanks and postage were, and how I spent time in college assembling track lists of these songs and recording them to CDs. If anyone would be interested in having them, I'd be willing to trade. Barring you, of course, send me blanks and postage. See ya!